Namo Fundamental Teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Fundamental Teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Fundamental Teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. The Dharma, infinitely profound and subtle, is rarely encountered even in a million kalpas. Now we are able to hear, study, and follow it. May we fully realize the Tathagata's true meaning. Now let us look at the next lines. It can remove our suffering. This is the truth beyond all doubt. So we can think of the previous lines. Prajnaparamita is the great powerful mantra, the great enlightening mantra. That is the cause, that is the reason, that is the practice. And then these two lines, it can remove our suffering. That is the result. That is the fruit of the Prajnaparamita practice. It is the function. The Prajnaparamita can do this for you. It can remove all suffering. So let us review what we have learned about suffering. Suffering is a result. What is the nature of suffering? What is the nature of dukkha? Dukkha means anything that is unpleasant in life, right? It could be a small degree of unpleasantry. It could be a huge, painful, awful kind of pain or suffering. But regardless, all range of dukkha come from what? What is the source? So in the Four Noble Truths, Buddha already talked about it. The second noble truth is the cause of suffering, the cause of dukkha. And we can extract the essence of that. And the causes are two things: false views and false thoughts or misguided thoughts, which lead to misguided behavior. And that behavior is the karma, mental, verbal, or physical. What have we said about false views and false thoughts? And in order to end dukkha, we need to start from the root, from the cause, to turn false thoughts into what? False views into right views, right understanding. And we need to turn the subsequent thinking process into right thinking, right thoughts, which in turn lead to right behavior. So that is a simple principle, but is really profound and it's really powerful. You can apply this to any kind of dukkha. Does this make sense to you? Does this teaching, this method of ending dukkha make sense to you? If not, why? What doesn't make sense? Of course it does, right? But you have to convince yourself. And if you don't see that, please ask questions. Questions. I'm confident that anybody who understands this principle will see that this is how we can end suffering. And you can also question, why does this method or this principle is able to end dukkha forever? How can we be sure that it can end dukkha forever? Well, it's because the emptiness of dukkha, the emptiness of suffering. So how have we discussed ways to understand the emptiness of suffering? We talked of many different aspects, many different perspectives to understand the emptiness of suffering. Of course, emptiness of suffering doesn't mean you don't suffer. You do. We do. We all do. But understanding the emptiness of suffering is the very core of how we can end suffering altogether. And it is the key. It is the key to see that it is possible to end suffering, any kind of suffering. It is possible. It is possible for anybody. Okay? So this is the core right view. And when you understand the emptiness of suffering, you will have the faith. You will have the faith that it is possible to end dukkha forever. Now, the sutra, the Heart Sutra says, it can end all suffering. Our suffering includes not just our own suffering, but everybody else's suffering. So once I am convinced and once I am deep in the practice of ending my own suffering, my own dukkha, I can use that wisdom, that knowledge, that skill, which is gradually developed to help end other people's troubles, other people's dukkha. So that is the paramita part of prajna. Prajna paramita is about emptiness, but emptiness is one side of the coin. There's the other side of the coin, which is what? Interdependence. Everything is empty because of the interdependent nature of how that thing come about. The right conditions must be together for something to happen, including this body, including my consciousness, including the situations I get myself in, including everything that happens in this world, including all forms, right? So because they are all dependent arisen, they are interdependent, therefore they are all empty. Everything is a process that continuously change. There's no independent substance within. And so the other side of this emptiness is the possibility of making anything happen with the correct conditions put together. Right? So in order to help you, who may be a doctor, to end your dukkha, do doctors have suffering? Of course they do. And how to help you, who is a teacher, help you, who is work in a restaurant, and help you, who is a student, anybody. I may need to learn how to create the right conditions to communicate in a certain way, right? In order to help you understand the teaching and give you something that is applicable in your life. So that is the interdependent part. That is the paramita part. I need to perfect that. How to make things happen even though they are empty. Especially because they are empty, I can make things happen to help others. Prajnaparamita is able to end not only my suffering, but others people's suffering when I can fully utilize the emptiness side and the interdependent side. Because of emptiness, I'm not attached to anything. I'm not attached to my accomplishment. I'm not attached to the fact that I have the ability to help others. And because the interdependent part, I can objectively create the right conditions, or learn, or try to create the right conditions to effectively help others. Okay, and so that's a long learning process, but it's so meaningful. It is such a meaningful way to live our life. Okay? And the Heart Sutra says, this is the truth beyond all doubt. Beyond all doubt. So, of course, we have doubts. How do I know this is the teaching is correct? How do I know it's true? How do I know it will actually work? Yeah? So, do we need faith? Yes, we do need faith. How do we have faith? When we have doubt. Both faith and doubt are important in the Buddha's learning. So it is useful at this point to examine the different levels of faith. There's the blind faith. What is blind faith? Blind faith is, because somebody tell me this is true, I believe it. I don't use my reasoning ability. I just trust you. I don't care whether it makes sense or not. I just happen to believe it. So that's blind faith. You may believe in something that turned out to be true, but you may well believe in something that makes no sense at all. Right? So blind faith is not encouraged in Buddhism, of course. Now, there's a proper procedure to establish true faith. It begins usually with what we call beginner's faith. And then you proceed to the next level, which is called right faith. And then the next level, which is deep faith. And finally, the fourth level, which is true faith. What is beginner's faith? Beginner faith may be, hey, somebody tell you, hey, Buddhism is great. Let's go study with this Buddhist teacher. Let's go read a book. Somebody may tell you, there's somebody's teaching Buddhist meditation, Zen meditation. Would you like to go and we try out? Okay, so you go participate, or maybe you read a book and you say, hey, that sounds good. Maybe somebody tell you, you have faith in the Buddha. Buddha will bring us blessing. Oh, great! I would like some blessing. I need some blessing. The Buddha can help me remove my bad karma. Oh, great! I don't want to have bad karma. So I have faith. I want to believe in it. So that can be called beginner's faith because you are exposed to it and you, for whatever reason, you are inclined to believe in it. Say, okay, I like it. I want to become a Buddhist. I want to follow the Buddhist way. The problem is, at this point, you may not have a good grasp of what Buddhism is actually about, what meditation involves, and what does the Buddha actually teach. Okay, so the beginner faith is shaky. It's built on shaky ground. And when you encounter some obstacles, like, Buddha will give you a blessing. So I take the 3 refuges, I become a Buddhist. But then my investment goes wrong and I lose a lot of money. Or I catch the virus and I get really sick. Why doesn't the Buddha protect me? Buddhism obviously doesn't work. Okay, so I lose my faith. And that's possible with beginner's faith. right? Because the person may not really understand what the Dharma teaching is about. So from beginner's faith, we need to proceed to the next level, which is right faith. Right faith means that I begin to study the Dharma. I examine the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Paths. I study a Buddhist sutra, or I go listen to a Buddhist teacher, a good Buddhist teacher, and they teach me the philosophy, the principles, the teaching, how to meditate, all right, properly. And through that, I use my own reasoning. I examine the teaching. Hey, it makes sense. Can I verify it? Well, I cannot verify everything. I obviously don't know the state of nirvana yet, but then I can examine the teaching about the false view and the false thoughts and its relationship with dukkha, and then I can try to apply it in my life. And then when I do, I begin to see, hey, yeah, it works. Logically, it's sound. And then when I apply it in real life, it seems to work. Sometimes it doesn't work so well. And I go back and think, okay, it's because my understanding of the situation is not complete, it's not well enough. If I think about it deeper, I discover, oh, there's another false view that I didn't recognize. So anyway, you try to apply the Dharma, you try to practice meditation, and then you do begin to see that it makes sense, it is bringing you some benefits. It is helping you to understand the trouble you are in and how to get out of those issues. You practice mindfulness of body and mindfulness of feeling and begin to see, oh, I'm having a better management of my feelings already. Yeah? So by understanding, having a right understanding of what the teaching is, you establish right faith. When you have right faith, then you are not on shaky ground anymore. You believe in the Buddha's teaching because you have seen it works, and then you have see that it makes sense. Even though you cannot prove, you cannot verify everything the Buddha says. Because you understand the reason you cannot verify is because my cultivation is not deep enough. I'm not there yet. I have not been able to fully examine my mind yet. But then you have that faith, I can do it. That's right faith. Now the third level is deep faith. Deep faith is when you have become more and more advanced in your practice. You have become more and more advanced in your absorbing of the teaching, and you begin to see how the different Buddhist teaching connect together, and how the principles, causality, interdependence, and emptiness, they really are an organic whole that they really do describe the way things are in life. And also through your meditation, you begin to see the more and more subtle nuances of our afflictions or our false views and false thought. Begin to see my mental process much more clearly. And you see that how it corresponds to what the Buddha has taught so well. You're gaining a deeper understanding of the empty nature of phenomena. You begin to understand the teaching of no self or non-self. You begin to see the self-ego, how it acts up. So when your practice and your understanding is quite deep meaning that you have a pretty good grasp or pretty good knowledge of what emptiness of the self means, and how everything is connected via this interdependence and emptiness, then your faith has become unshakable. Unshakable. Nobody can pull you away. That is deep faith. And finally, what is true faith? True faith is when you have actually realized through direct experience the empty nature of the self. You have actually realized our Buddha nature, the potential to become a Buddha. You have realized the mind of this present moment encompasses past, present, and future. And you have seen the true reality of what it means to be alive. What is life? What is death? These are not 4 or 5 different things. They are really one thing. So with that direct knowledge, the direct experience, which completely verifies the Buddha's teaching, is true faith, because you have verified for yourself the core of the teaching. So we can even say at this point, it's not faith anymore. There's no point for faith. It's not about believing something. It's real. You have experienced it yourself. It is real. It is true. So that's true faith. So that's when you can say, this is the truth beyond all doubt. So you can see that, okay, the Heart Sutra here is not saying that, oh, you just have to believe it. This is the truth beyond all doubt. It's a process. Take your time by generating that beginner's phase. Okay, let me give it a try. Feel free to question. Question whatever you want. And gradually see that the teaching makes sense. Gradually see that you can integrate that teaching into your life. Gradually, through the meditation, through the cultivation, through the practice, you begin to have a deeper understanding. You go on to right faith. And then, through even more diligent practice, you reach deep faith. And finally, it is, you know that this is truth beyond all doubt. Okay? Now, take your time to establish the right faith and onto true faith. Now, Shifu, I have the absolute faith that if anybody sincerely embark on this Buddhist path, you will face challenges. You may, you have doubts. But if you're sincere and you really want to learn the teaching and you really want to understand it, you really want to practice it, sometime in the future, all of you will reach that true faith where you see that Prajnaparamita is the truth beyond all doubt. I have that faith that anybody can reach there if you're willing to put in the work. Let's begin with the beginner's faith. Or maybe you're already at the right faith stage. Okay? So let us review what we talked about. So it says that Prajnaparamita can remove all suffering. And it is the truth beyond all doubt. So we talk about what is suffering. What is dukkha? What is the nature of dukkha? And why is it possible for anyone to end all suffering for themselves? And where does the false views and the false thought come into play? And how is it to turn that around is the key to end suffering. And Shifu talked about the relationship of emptiness and interdependence, which is really two sides of the same principle. And it's the very, very core of the Buddha's Dharma. It's the very, very core of Prajna Paramita. And using that, you can help end our suffering for all people, all sentient beings, not just people. And then we talked about the 4 levels of faith, excluding blind faith, of course. So what are the 4 levels? Beginner's faith, right faith, deep faith, and true faith. At which point we have truth beyond all doubt. Let us now make a dedication. May the merits of our deeds reach every part of the world. Sentient beings, large and small, all attain enlightenment.